Yeah, so we'll just jump in. So, Nicole, why don't you introduce yourself and then we'll get started on our interesting topics for the day.
Yeah, for sure. So lovely to be here. Thanks for having me, Lynn. It's always nice to connect to like-minded people and especially our colleagues and peers, nutritionists. And so I'm going to go way back to my first career. I worked in the corporate industry for 10 years. I sold processed food. I got paid very well. I had that six-figure income. But then I had a very sick baby that had a ton of food allergies by the time she was 9 months old. She was on antibiotics after antibiotics. And we didn't have a first good year run at being a mama bear, let me tell you. And I was lucky enough that I got a nudge from a friend that said, why don't you go to a naturopathic doctor and get kind of a second opinion to find out maybe there's something else going on in her little body. And I was like, a who, a what? I never even heard what a naturopath was. But I kind of took a chance. And in that, first consult, was just an eye opener for me. She did some muscle testing and some electrodermal testing with my young baby. She was only 9 months old. And right away, we discovered a ton of food allergies. And that was like the window to my next career. And so I just started to fall in love with learning and reading, and she was guiding me and then encouraged me to go back to wholeness or go back to school and become a nutritionist. So that's what I did on my second mat leave. And then after learning what I did in nutritional school that first year, there was no way that I could go back to selling processed food after I realized what I was contributing to people's health. And so I had to do a huge shift and decide I was going to open up. I worked in a clinic for many years. I focused on gut health, so gut protocol. I worked with a massage therapist, chiropractor, and there was a few other health professionals in our clinic. And it was a really good kind of like referral center. We really just like supported each other. And it was good. I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it because, this was like 15 years ago, right? This was before social media. So, there was, me trying to manage two young kids, a husband at the time that worked, 80 hours a week. All my family was out west. And so there was always this like juggling act I was doing and babysitting, and then the babysitter's sick, and then I got to, and so can I swear on this?
Absolutely. 100%.
At times I felt like I was in a shit show. I was like, oh my gosh. Some days I was like, maybe I should just go back to corporate and not do this because it was a lot of stress. And, I know my husband at the time kind of gave me the nudge, and he's like, some days I think you would make more money at McDonald's than doing what you do, because when you first start out, the number of hours that you spend and doing the perfect protocols and the research and making sure that medications don't contraindicate. And, it was like sometimes 4 hours on one, and you get like, or you divide that, charge of a consult over 4 or 5 hours, and you're like, yeah, he's right. I would be making minimum wage.
Yeah.
So even though I loved helping people, I also come from a background of business. And so I've always been in my blood, always learning ways to make money. To the point where in university, I did door-to-door sales. And that was unheard of back in the 90s. But I did that to make money and be unique and stand out. And that served me well, in my career. So I was like, there's got to be a better way. There's just got to be a better way. And so that's a little bit about kind of like, I started to do different stuff, cooking classes, taking, clients to grocery stores, just trying to make that extra money and adding on. Then I did a 12-week weight loss program, added that on. And so if you're a nutritionist and you're on here and you're kind of feeling a little lost and you're trying to kind of figure stuff out, I see you, I feel you. I think just about every single nutritionist goes through that journey of, building your confidence so that you can feel that you actually are a great nutritionist and that you do know what you're talking about. We always go through that kind of confidence curve. And then it's like, where do I fit in? Where do I fit in? Do I start at a health food store? Do I open up my clinic? And now that we've got social media, do I start online? So it's a lot of questions, and it can be very, very overwhelming and daunting. And the great thing is there are a lot of great programs out there that can give you that training and success to launch your business beyond just the education that you got at your particular nutritional school. And I would definitely look into that so that you can find some mentors to tune into so that you can, and I always say, usually you know the answer. You just have to tune in and ask yourself, is this bringing me joy?
Yeah.
Am I finding my mojo? Is it like lighting me on fire? And if it isn't, you probably are not going to build a great career around that, because you can't force something that's not going to bring you joy.
Yeah, 100%. Your story really resonates with me because funny enough, my last son had a very similar, he's got really bad allergies, and that's kind of, I was doing my certification when I was on mat leave with him. And so same kind of thing is like, I went into consulting. I didn't really love it.
Mhm.
I didn't feel like getting up every day and doing those things, right? So
Yeah.
making the forms and making the protocols, adding something in, the cooking classes, all of that takes so much energy that people don't
Yeah.
really talk about. And it is hard to find that one thing that really speaks to you in terms of lighting your fire, like
Yeah.
getting you going. And so what's interesting to me is that you wrote a book. So did the book come before the gray hair movement, or which way did it go?
Yeah. So let me step back and tell you how I got to my book and how I was able to, have the time off to write the book.
Yeah.
And what inspired me to write the book is kind of a 15-year journey that kind of was, building. I was talking about, finding different ways to make money. Well, what happened about a year into, sharing my clinic with my community, my mom had introduced me to the Juice Plus products.
Okay.
And, typical nutritionist, oh, it's MLM or it's network marketing, or, oh, it's one of those companies. And it was like, yeah, no, thank you, mom. Because in our school, we were told, don't partner with the network marketing company. They're bad. They're evil. They'll ruin your reputation. And so I just kept on telling my mom no, without being open-minded, because I didn't have any mentors that were leading me to say, this might be okay. This may be okay if you find the right product. But what happened is my mom called me at the right time of having another 2 weeks of just sick kids. And she said, listen, Nicole, just take a peek at this product, put it in your body for 4 months and your kids. There's 15 research papers on it. And I was like, well, research papers, who's paying for it? Like, how does all that happen? And so I dug in a little bit to understand what, independent research is. I started to understand what, peer-reviewed journal, like to get into a journal is a pretty big deal. I remember calling my science teacher, Susan Baker, who taught us at CSNM. And she was always telling me, Nicole, if you find a product out in the marketplace, it actually has 2 gold standard studies that have been peer reviewed and actually published, pay attention. So here I had Juice Plus at 15. I was like, okay, I had her little voice in my head going, well, Nicole, just give it a go. Susan said that I should be paying attention. Let's pay attention. And so my skeptic brain was like, I at least need to get my blood work done before I put this in my body, because I really want to see what changes are going to happen at the cellular level, because that's my geekness inside me. I want to either prove something wrong or right. In my head, I was going to prove my mom wrong. Like, mom, just get off my back, leave me alone. And my best friend, Anita, who trained under Lynn Hinton, Anita was my best friend that did my blood work. So she had a clinic in Woodbridge, and she took our live blood analysis. She gave us kind of a synopsis of where our health was. And then 4 months later, we went back. And so my kids at the time were 3 and 2. And she looked in my eyes, and of course, I'm hoping she's going to tell me that this stuff is garbage. It's, it's not working. But no, she looked in my eyes and she said, oh my gosh, Nicole, this stuff actually works. Your red blood cells are on fire. Look at how beautiful they are. They're big and they're shiny and they're not sticking together anymore. She goes, you must freaking feel amazing. And I'm like, I didn't want to say anything, but actually I do. I feel really, really good. I actually feel like I got my mama mojo back. And this is me. a nutritionist, juicing, Vitamixing, making everything from scratch. Our grocery bill was $2,000. And so I was like, this stuff is what people are missing. They're actually missing this variety, this rainbow, this amazing opportunity to just bridge the gap. And obviously my blood work showed that I needed to bridge the gap. I didn't think I needed it, but I did. And then with my kids, their health improved so much. And over the first year of being on Juice Plus, Ella's allergies were like, we came down to like 0. Her tests were fine. So it was really a tool in the toolkit that started to help just take her health to the next level. I'll be honest though, I didn't want to do network marketing. I didn't want to be one of those nutritionists. I had some shame around it, some embarrassment around it. I'm worried about what my peers would think, totally. And I think that's normal for any nutritionist that is kind of looking or taking a look or, you know, putting their flag up. They're like, forget about it. And I had to like guinea pig with about 100 clients in my first year. And it took about 100 stories of them showing me that the kids were pooping more, that their energies had improved, that their blood work had improved, that their autoimmune conditions started to go into remission. And all of my Juice Plus customers were getting results that I was not getting at the level of just eat food or just get on a multivitamin. It just was night and day. And so I had to start to get real with myself. I had to say, Nicole, you know what? You have found a tool and you have to get over yourself, because I totally had the ITC syndrome. And I'm sure some of you watching it probably have it too. I'm too cool. Like, I'm too cool for network marketing. Like, that was me. So I get you, I see you, I feel you. Yeah. But I had to get over myself because the results that were in front of me after a year were so incredible that I had to get over myself for the sake of helping other people. Yeah. And it just started to snowball. Right. And so for the last kind of 14-ish years, I've been part of the Juice Plus community. It provided me an extra residual income as I was managing my clinic. And let me tell you, that extra money was paying for my rent, was paying for my bills, was paying for a part-time personal assistant, was allowing me to grow my nutritional practice with a little bit more ease. Yeah. And if there are any nutritionists on here that are feeling the pressure right now with what's going on in the world, and that you need a little bit of safety net, a little bit of ease, a little bit of breathing room, take a look at a company that maybe has this model where the products are resonating with you. Yeah. Because not every company is going to resonate with you. You know, I've looked at many, many, many other companies and I'm like, nope, would never do that. Nope, would never do that. And I instantly know. I just instantly know if it's going to be part of my value system. It just happened to be that Juice Plus met everything on my value system. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of friends that do oils and it meets their value system and they're thriving and having a beautiful residual income. And for some of them, it's their full-time income. So going back to my book story, it was my level of experience in the business of helping more women, helping more nutritionists earn this extra income that just gave me this peace of mind that I had enough income to do something else, something more. And I always had this book inside me. And then when I had a health scare a couple years ago where I had really suspicious lumps in my breast that in my head was cancerous, and my naturopath even said, this feels cancerous, OMG, right? Yeah. I freaked out and had to live in a week of unknown before the test results came back. And in that week, I had some big conversations with myself. Nicole, you're a nutritionist. Are you doing everything that you've been taught to live your best life in your best health? And you go through your checklist and then you're like, oh, but I'm still drinking pretty heavy because I love wine, check. I'm still dyeing my hair every 3 weeks because my grays come in. Okay, and so what I started to do is I started to research each of these areas where I thought I would be okay because I'm doing everything else right. Yeah. And it was like one of those things where, and my book is called Get Naked, because I had to get naked with myself. Yeah. Right? The truth friggin' hurts sometimes. We don't want to look in the mirror and look in the truth and go, maybe you won't be okay if you continue on this path, Nicole. So of course, I researched the level of alcohol, and I haven't cut it out completely,
Yeah.
but I have reduced it so significantly because drinking has just been part of my life since I was 14 years old. It was just what we did to have fun, and to party and to play and to whatever. And it becomes such a ritual in your, that you don't even think twice of it. You're like, yeah, I'll have another glass of wine. Yeah, I'll have another glass of wine. And now you're like, well, how is that glass of wine affecting my hormones? How is it increasing the chances of me getting breast cancer? How is it increasing my estrogen in my body? So, I mean, I did a lot of tests, advanced tests, over that kind of like for 6 months. I got my DNA done. I got on a custom supplement. I got my Dutch hormone panel, so I knew my pathways. I understand how alcohol impacted those pathways. And then I started to research hair dye. And this is just something that I've been doing from a very young age because my mom went quite white and silver very early on. And I guess I got that gene. And so even though I tried all these other like secrets of, you know, trying not to go gray, nothing worked for me. And so I had to kind of embrace it. And what was crazy is I remember being at the hairdresser and taking a picture of the ingredient list. Duh, I'm a nutritionist, you're a nutritionist. It's like one of the things that we don't talk about. Like we talk about like food ingredients, but how about like your hair dye ingredients? It's almost like a shh, let's not talk about that. And it's, yeah. And so I dove in and I checked out every single ingredient and I'm like, holy F, Nicole, there is carcinogens in here. Carcinogens.
That are going in your scalp. Yeah.
Like
25 seconds. Yeah.
Beautiful brain of yours. And it gets absorbed so fast. And the crazy thing, every time I used to get my hair dyed, I would have a couple days of my scalp being itchy, almost a rash that would kind of travel from the back of my neck down. So skin irritation. I would get, and I don't know if you guys have ever gotten this, I'm sure you have, if you're connected to your body like me, is a toxic taste tongue. So that your tongue for 2 or 3 days is like coated with just total like chemicals. Like I detox a lot on my tongue whenever I do a detox and I have to tongue scrape. Well, I had to do heavier tongue scraping when I got my hair dyed for 2 days after. Wow. And I would also get this onset of a headache. I'm not a headache girl, but just an onset to know that there was the noise. And what I like to say to women is, your body is always talking to you if you're listening. And my body was starting to scream at me every time I got my hair dyed, like scream. Yeah. And so in that moment, October 2018, I just had this intuition and this nudge to say, stop it, Nicole. You are so worth it. Who gives a shit what color your hair is? If you are not around for your 2 kids to watch them graduate and get married and have kids, I am sure they will not give a shit what your color your hair is. So get over yourself, like health over vanity. And the message was so strong. I've never had a message kind of guided to me so strong in my life. And that next morning, I just started writing. I was just down in my office and I was just writing and writing and writing, and I was crying. It was almost like this healing session that I was doing with myself. And the book is about my journey of getting to a place of being naked and comfortable in my own body. So if you take a look at my picture on my book, it's me naked on the cover. And it's about my 47 years of getting to a place of being comfortable in my own skin. And so it's very open, it's very vulnerable. I share lots of stories. I interview women in here as well. I expose kind of the hair industry. I dig deep into the research, and but I give women choice. I give women choice, and I don't want to shame any woman if you're not ready to go gray. There are so many beautiful options. There are organic hair salons that are showing up, which is amazing. They're bringing in beautiful products. Great company out of Australia as well as the UK that are bringing really healthy products and taking the nasties out. So that totally is an option. There's henna. Henna is like the most natural way that you can color your hair. Just recently, one of the first henna salons just opened up in Ajax in Ontario here, where you can go in and you can get your hair hennaed by a professional and then go home and let it like set for 4 hours and then wash it off. So there are options. And that's what I'm telling women is maybe you're not ready. That's okay. But I do have an online Gorgeous Gray movement where people are joining. It's a private group. It's women only. And you can just get educated and get inspired, and maybe one day it might just be your right time. But in that group, I'm just trying to educate women about what's going on, not only in our hair products, but our beauty products, and just encouraging women to get to a place of just get naked with yourself and be okay in your skin. And it's not about the weight. I mean, I on this cover, I'm probably 15 pounds heavier than I was like 4 years ago. But the old Nicole would have went, I'm not good enough to get on the cover and get naked because I got this weight on me. But the new Nicole has transformed her story to say, I'm okay. I'm at peace. I'm okay with the gray. I actually like my hair better, believe it or not,
It's
in my
beautiful.
natural.
Like, honestly,
Thank
like,
you.
you have the most beautiful silver hair, like silver fox. Hello.
Silver fox. Yeah. And I mean, like any woman, if you do think about this journey, we all have the same fear. What am I going to look like? Am I going to look old? Are people going to ignore me? Am I going to be, invisible in society? We all have it.
Yeah.
So all I tell is you don't know until you jump in. And I would have had no idea that I would have been in love with my gray. And I don't have any of those symptoms anymore. And all of a sudden, these unhealthy symptoms in my body, which was like breast pain, lumps in my body, all started to go away because I was making these changes, right? Get rid of the hair dye, reduce alcohol significantly. What else? Custom DNA supplement, check. Got rid of my fake nails that I used to get every 2 weeks because I thought that's what made me pretty. And so those went away. Got back to making sure that everything in the house is stored in glass and not plastic, right? So you start to make these major changes, and then all of a sudden you realize I'm okay with the extra weight because I feel awesome. I feel awesome. And it's not a number on a scale anymore as we get older, ladies. It's just about, I feel good. I can, go golfing. I can ride a bike. I, have good energy. I sleep well. My breasts are healthy. Like, hello, like that's what we want as nutritionists. And that's what we want our clients to, is feel awesome. So that's where the inspiration came from my book.
It's a beautiful story. Honestly, I'm all for you on all those points. I think it's funny talking to you because I feel like our stories are like almost identical. I literally just had the same realization about my body in a meditation a few days ago. Just really connecting back to it and just being like, with my fibromyalgia, like there's a really big stigma around the mental aspect of it and it being in your head and and it's like, well, what are you doing? What are you putting into your body that could be on a cellular level that is affecting it? So I just recently did the no poo method, and these are my lovely locks without shampoo. And, I haven't washed my hair in like 3 months other than with apple cider vinegar. And so at CSNN, I was teaching the eco nutrition course, and we talked. Normally in that course, you don't really get a lot of information on the toxins other than when it comes to farming and food processing. And so I added in a day where we talked about making your own natural products and cutting out the chemicals. And us being in Europe, I feel really fortunate because they only have about 400 that they're allowed to put in, where there's almost double or triple that in North America that they're allowed to put in and not actually say that they're on there. So I think we forget how porous our skin really is. And, 25 seconds it takes for a chemical to seep through. And so I think, the message of like loving your body and making sure like that we really do pay attention to that like holistic approach to our food, our environment, our being, and loving ourselves. Like, I mean, your body is talking to you, like you said, like fibromyalgia is like, it is yelling like swear words at you at that point, you know? And it's like, you really do have to start appreciating, like, this body bears all my scars, like
Yeah.
birth, trauma, life, everything that we've gone through. And so to like not respect that you are living in it and it's supporting you no matter what you put it through. And it's really just like an amazing, I never understood the body as a temple, you know, until like 3 months ago. And I was like,
Yeah.
I need to be doing whatever I can to nourish it. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be food, but it needs sleep and it needs everything. And so I
Yeah.
really like that you've you know, found your calling in terms of helping women go more natural
Yeah.
on, like, we are all beautiful if we look and take the
Mhm.
time to see like that we can be. And you're super
Yeah.
brave for getting on the cover. And I would never get in front of somebody naked, you know, before. And now I'm like, well, you know what? Like, I have no problem with my body and I don't really care if
Yeah.
you do. You know,
Yeah.
like, I'm married, I've got kids, and I can wear a bikini down to the beach and I don't really mind.
Yeah.
You have to deal with my saggy boobs, but I like them.
I know. And I would just wish for all women to get to a place where we could just be naked in our own skin. And imagine how the world would change if women just owned that confidence. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's taken me a long time to get here. You know, I had a lot of trauma growing up. There was a lot of hurt. And so I've had to do the work to get here. So it's not like you can read one book and say, I'm healed, right? It's you know, many coaches, many counseling, many you know, the daily work that needs to happen, right? The daily meditation, the daily small silent connections, so that you can be guided. And you know, we all have tough days. I know that I work with a lot of women within my Juice Plus community, right? And this last 3 months, for a lot of women, there's a lot of pain that's come up, whether they've been in maybe an okay relationship that's gone downhill, or, and so I work and I hear a lot of pain. And some days we just have to own that and be okay and know that today will pass and tomorrow is a new day. But it's about continuing to help us move forward in the right direction. And I, you know, if you're a nutritionist and you feel kind of like alone, or I say, find a community of like-minded people that you can tap into. I know I'm so grateful that we have our Juice Plus community to tap into, because right now everything's online for us. So we do a lot of business and a lot of work right now just through Zoom calls. And I call it like my virtual tea, where I get to like still see people and connect with people. But everything right now is just amplified with social media. And you know, I think this is going to be a while. I know that our company just canceled all global in-person live meetings for the rest of 2020.
Wow.
So I know that that will happen to a lot of companies. I was golfing last night with some ladies, and they work with some pretty big companies, and they're all thinking that like they'll be home working till the end of the year, like that they're not going back. So I think that we just have to, as nutritionists, be flexible. I know that a lot of nutritionists are figuring out like, oh my gosh, I got to get online. How does that work? Well, look at this as a gift. This is a gift. If you were not online, you should be online.
Yes.
And it's going to force you a new skill set. And new skill sets all the time is necessary, right, Lynn? To
Yes.
keep on adding, to keep on growing. And if you're not growing as a nutritionist and you're not learning new skill set, I guarantee that your check is not going to be growing that much. So I would say get out of your box and be open-minded to different ways to bring in income. And if you follow some of the big nutritionists in the marketplace, like a Jen Pike or a Samantha Gladys, and you will see all their different ways that they're bringing in money. It's just not consulting. So you know, that's where I see very successful nutritionists, is they've gotten outside of their box and they do what lights them up. I'm talking to Samantha just last week in her podcast. You know, she, just like you, Lynn, she's like, the whole one-on-one thing isn't doing it for me. So she's taken a whole other shift now, and she does 6 months showing people how to build your business online. And
Yeah.
she goes, that lights me up. And I'm like, yes, like it's finding the joy. Wouldn't you agree, Lynn? Finding that joy?
100%. I think it's just to be able to like step outside of, well, I work from home, this is becoming a drudge, I'm not really appreciating it.
Yeah.
I think COVID has been a blessing, like you said, especially for me. I think, I just started working full time from home.
Mhm.
Um, and it's almost as if like COVID like forced me to be there, like this is your
Yeah.
time to shine. Like you have to really push your business. And it has, like I started looking into life coaching. And so I'm getting my certification in that, certification into metabolic balance. And I'm super stoked because I think literally I have found the connection to my fibromyalgia that doctors can't even like imagine that could be a possibility. And I'm like, if I hadn't been, confined in here and learning and pushing
Mhm.
forward to try and find that one thing that really lights me up so that I get up every day and I have the energy to charge forward and want to be there. Not to mention like supporting nutritionists is
Yeah.
honestly one of the most powerful things that you can do in the industry because it only makes us stronger. And so I kind of want to touch back on something that you talked about earlier and saying like, there's MLM companies out there that definitely have a horrible rap and have a very poor compensation structure. You have to
Yeah.
order product in at high levels. Um, Maybe they're chemically based, they're not whole food based. Anyways, whatever it is that you choose to look at in terms of MLM, I know that something comes up for a lot of people is the fact that a lot of these MLM companies will pay for their own studies. And I know when I
Yeah.
was teaching, the same thing kind of came up.
Yeah.
And my answer to that is, okay, well, if we look at the dairy industry, for instance, they're lobbying, they want to prove that their milk does something. And so
Yeah.
they pay for these studies to make it look a certain way.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to, say, Juice Plus, I just want to clarify, I'll use this as an example because you're a
Yeah.
rep and it makes sense. They have paid for their own studies, correct?
Yeah, for most of them. So there's like 41 studies, and most of them, they actually have an entire research department with a budget every year. And so you're right. They pay for it. There's a couple studies that they have done where it's been funded by like like an association or like you know so we can get you access, but most of them definitely they have paid for it. Because I always say, who else would pay for it? Because the government's not going to pay for
Exactly.
it.
It's
The
whole food
pharmaceutical,
nutrition.
yeah, yeah,
Nobody pays for
pharmaceutical
that.
is not going to pay for it. So
Yeah.
yeah, who's going to pay for it? So I totally understand people's concern, but if you understand, and I didn't understand this, this was the thing is I didn't understand. So when I actually like called Susan Baker to say, like, help me understand truly what gold standard research means.
Yeah.
Walk me through that. And so once she walked me through like the whole process, so it's like, yep, the company does, let's say, they have a budget. So let's say, for example, the University of Toronto, they're like, yeah, we want to do a study. We've heard about, these capsules. We want to, research on, obese, women between this age and this age. So what they would do is they would put together with their research department, what they would want to study. They would submit it if it kind of fell in line with what we were wanting to do for that year. What we would do is we would give them money to do the research, and we would give them the placebo capsules and the real capsules so you wouldn't know the difference. And then off they would go with their research team to do what they needed to do. And then all of a sudden that research is done at 6 months, then it gets sent off to peers within the industry and the experts. And then they go through the study to make sure that the study was done ethically and properly. And then if it gets passed through that, then it goes to another board. And maybe it's like the journal of, let's say, it won't be pediatrics, but let's say, on heart health or like the cardiology. And then that board would look at it and go, wow, this is good. And like 5 people in the industry signed off on it with their name and their reputation. And so we're now going to go back to the company and say, this is, our results. This is what happens. The peers have signed off on it. Now you actually have us able to, and we're like, yep, that sounds great. And we have had studies that have, shown a little bit of results or neutral results. Like there hasn't been wows, but it still gets published. Like, it's not like we can control it. Like, once it's in the hands of the researchers, it's their name, it's their reputations, the peers' names and reputations. And then think about this, guys. If you go on to a site and you see 40 different medical centers and universities, okay, and they all put their name on it, that is their reputation. That is their reputation. So I could call all of those universities. I could talk to the head researcher, and they're putting their like, we wouldn't even be able to afford to pay all those people off to fake our data. We're just not that big of a company to be able to afford that. It's not in our budget to pay people off. So I totally get when nutritionists think that, because I thought that. I totally thought that until I understood the in-depth of what it takes to actually get in a published paper. Then I was like, oh, wow, okay. Now I need to be more open-minded to this. It's okay that they have a budget. Instead of a marketing budget, they put it to research.
Which I think is a super important thing for a whole food supplement to be making waves the way that they are in terms of their research, or like the markers and blood values and stuff like that. What did I want to say about this? It was, and then to be Health Canada approved too, right? So yeah. I think there's one thing when you're looking at an MLM company like Isagenix, which I don't think, I tried to find out if they were Health Canada approved, but I don't think they are. And just looking at the different things that you need checked off on your box if you're going to buy into a program or a product. I mean, there's other companies out there offering patient direct kind of things, like Thorne does it, Genestra, Juice Plus is working with Whole Food and providing vitamins for free to children. I mean, I think there's a big misconception about just MLMs getting a bad rap because of the ones that were around in the 90s and the early 2000s that, do sketchy things and pay their people horribly. And, it's only the minutia that make money. And the thing is that we need to sell supplements. That is what we do in our business. Why lose the margin on it? Yeah. And so it is a really hot topic. It's almost like vaccinations, maybe not quite so hot. But
yeah. It totally is. But I can tell you that the most satisfying thing for me doing this business now for almost 15 years and working with a lot of health professionals and working with a lot of nutritionists is how this extra residual income has been helping them. And just through these last 3 months, I can't tell you the number of calls that I've gotten from my health professionals on my team to say, I am so grateful that I dove in when I dove in, because this extra money is helping me with X, Y, Z until I go back to work, or it's covering my rent, or, whatever that would look like for you. So I just say, be open-minded to it, because it's a game changer for me. I mean, it provided me a 6-figure income very early on. It replaced my corporate income, and, it allowed me to write my book. It allows me, if I want to take summers off with my kids, it allows me to have a flex schedule. So I run the ship. If I want to work, I work. If I don't, and it allows you to dream. When you start to have income coming in, whether you work or not, it allows you so much more freedom in life. And at the end of the day, I'm trying to help people live a more freedom lifestyle, period. Freedom in their own body, freedom from chemicals, freedom from worrying about money. And it's kind of a whole package that this could offer nutritionists. So
yeah, I'm with you. I mean, for me, it's the exact same thing. It's time freedom. Working from home is great, but having that money to decide not to work if you need it, and also just keeping the industry alive, right? Like you said, consulting is not going to pay your bills, and whoever has told you that, unless you have a super successful business, if you're partnered with a naturopathic doctor or something like that and getting referrals, I think consulting is just not gonna cut it in a way. I stopped consulting for that exact reason. And you gotta get what's the word I'm looking for? Creative, I think. Tap into yourself, like you said. It all comes from within, and it almost feels, once you're tapped into that, like inside. I call mine violet because it only works that way. It's a long story. It's going to be
Yeah.
in my book that I'm actually now writing. Uh,
Yay.
so the exact same kind of story as yours. But yeah, it feels like a guide, and it pushes you with energy and with hope and passion into the right thing. And so
Yeah.
tapping in, I think you nailed it. And that's exactly why I started taking the life coaching thing, is just like nailing it on the head. Like, how do we get more people to the point of loving themselves, doing what they're passionate about, and like, this is going to help nutritionists, but every other human in the world. So
Yeah.
it's really fulfilling work, and I think that that's what we need to be looking at, is trying to find ways to get creative and build a kick-ass community of beautiful gray, brown, blonde nutritionists going around the world and making a splash, I guess, in the industry.
Awesome. On
Hmm.
that board. Exactly. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for chatting with us today, and yeah, we'll uh, we'll have to get back on board. If anybody has any questions, where can they find you?
Yeah, so just head over to my website, nicolescott.ca, and everything is on my website to get a hold of me. You can order my book right off and off of my website as well. And what else? Yeah, and there's a link to join my Gorgeous Gray movement. So even if you just want to jump into my group, every day there are posts just about being brave, being vulnerable, and just loving you. And it's a beautiful community that's growing every day.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to jump in there with my like little strip of gray. Have you tried the no poo yet? That's a question for you.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I do the apple cider. I got my teenagers on it now as well, which is amazing. Every once in a while, because I have hard water, I can get a little bit of yellow in my gray hair because it can be very sensitive. So because of the hard water, it drops a lot of yellow over time. So I do have a beautiful purple shampoo that every once in a while I will use just to get that yellow brassy out. And I get it from my organic hair salon, and it's from a product line called Organic Color Systems out of the UK.
Amazing. Well, thanks for sharing your journey today, and yeah, we look forward to potentially having you back one day.
Awesome. Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks.